interesting when people ask how it is to be in an all-black writers' room and telling black stories, and it's like, well, we're just telling stories.
Right.
But we're black.
Oh, look at you, fitting into Jade's jeans.
These aren't Jade's. These are mine.
Oh,
I think they look cute.
sure, if you're dropping it like it's hot at a Nicki Minaj concert.
What you know about Nicki Minaj?
Child, I'm in the shade room every morning with my coffee to get my tea.
I mean, growing up a kid, like upper middle class black kid from the suburbs, and this is very much a fish out of water story. You know, I feel like my whole upbringing was kind of fish out of water, trying to find where I fit in, you know, whether it's some too black for the white kids, not black enough for the black kids, and I feel like the kids in our show are kind of coming to terms with what version of black they are, or they're coming of age, and it's that much a layer deeper because they're black on top of it. So there are these expectations of who they're supposed to be, and it's like, well, no, wait a minute, I don't do that, but why can't I do this? And I very much relate to that. So I think I bring that to the room, and along with, I always want to explore like kind of political issues or social issues.
Yes,
I think
you
I'm
do.
Yes, you
the,
do, Rage.
the militant one in the room, so
Yes, Rage.
I bring that fist clenching pitch whenever it's necessary. But yeah, that's everything I'm kind of passionate about right now, so it's very much in my work.
The journey started way before it actually happened for me. I am from East Cleveland, Ohio. Came here to be a writer right after college, and got a manager almost immediately, got dropped even faster because she was like, I'm no longer repping Baby Writers, and worked in production for a while, ended up getting pregnant, leaving the business for a while, and just being extremely unhappy. I was in corporate America for a while, and then I started doing writing on the side. You know, freelance for punching up scripts and having people tell me, you know what, you're funny. And you should really, really think about, you know, leaving your job. Be poor and be a writer. We'll try. So it's funny because I got laid off. And that was probably the biggest blessing ever. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna try it. And started writing. And I wrote tons and tons of pilots, tried for managers, and then it took one person, a mentor at the time, and she said, you know what? You're writing, your stories are great, you should tell your story. I promise you, if you tell your story,
Write what you know.
you're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
I told my stories, and immediately doors started opening. I did it, and immediately got in, took several meetings, and actually had the opportunity to say no to a project even though I was broke. But it was a conversation that I had with my manager, and she said, you know what, you're breaking into this industry. Don't go for something that you know is not going to do you any favors. It's not going to help you. If you don't feel like this is your voice, don't do it. So I'm like, you know what, I can eat ramen for another month. Okay, fine. Turned that down, and as soon as I did, you guys called. It's crazy how things happen.
Less than a year after being in LA to act, I ended up getting staffed on Eve as a writer. So for me, the real journey was trying to act, and then it was obvious that writing was the thing I was supposed to be doing, which makes sense because I always felt like I had all these ideas, and when you're an actor, nobody wants to hear your ideas. Nobody wants to hear, you know. So it was a really natural fit to come in, and you know, I've been doing it ever since.
For a long time, I was the only black writer in a white room, you know, and they wanted me to have a flavor and this and that, blah, blah. And especially if it was something about sports, rapping, dancing, I got it. You know, I remember doing a certain show, not gonna name drop, doing a certain show, and I was the new guy, and I was the young black guy. So when the head guy got fired, because he hired me, so he got fired, and I got fired with him, because they said that, well, all you bring is this flavor and blah blah, not knowing that the poems and the songs and the great stories, the great heartfelt stories and everything, that was me. But they saw me, didn't think about it. Now the writers knew, and they didn't speak up. They didn't say, well, hey man, that was Ant. They didn't say that. because they wanted their jobs and they kept their jobs, you know. But I kept getting that, and I not only got it from white writers, but also black writers. Yeah, I remember a producer told me, "Oh boy, you're funny. You're damn funny, but you can't be good with story." Well, why not? Because I'm funny. It's like telling a fast quarterback that you can't be accurate and fast,
Right.
you know. But it exists, and it was hard for me because I'm taking some jobs just to feed kids, you know. And I'm not necessarily proud of those, you know, writing gigs and everything, but, you know, I was known as a certain type of a writer, and I was never that type of a writer because I had to assimilate in this culture in order to even survive. So I can write anything. It didn't work the other way.
Yeah.
They never had to get to know us or how we do things, so we only get their version of who we are because they never lived it.
Seeing that this is my first show, and I was blessed to come up under both of you guys who
You're welcome.
are such amazing producers. I am just extremely proud to be born and raised on a show, an all-black show, and it just really set the bar so high for what's to come in the future.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would say being a black writer in an all black writers room has been a confirmation of what I already knew to be true about the value and the nuance and the complexity of black stories. And that's really confirmed every day that we sit in that room and share stories and create stories with each other.
Yeah, I think it's cool having a very diverse room of black writers.
Right, and I think that's the thing that most people don't recognize, that within African Americans there is tremendous diversity.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
our room really illustrates that.
And it's interesting when people ask how it is to be in an all-black writers room and telling black stories, and it's like, well, we're just telling stories,
Right.
but we're black.
Right.
So the stories
Yeah.
are just, they're organically told and they're not forced, and it just feels so real. It's like we're telling our lives and our
It's
experiences.
our version.
So,
It's our version of who we are
yeah.
Right.
versus someone else's version of who we are.
Right, and that's the first time I've been in a situation where it's our version of who we are, and so we get to have the truth of that, and
Right.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Good, the bad, and
Yeah.
that's
And the
not
final
bad.
say. Yeah.
Right, and the final say.
Right.
That's important.
No, I've been very fortunate enough to have a family from down south, you know, and some of them have passed on and everything, and I really feel blessed to be able to keep them alive on camera because some of the things I get credit for, it's my family. They said it.
Yeah.
I'm just using it, and it makes me laugh, you know. And just, I got a call from my sister today. She said that she was watching a show, and she could just tell by what the guy was saying, they had to be my brother. And then she watched the credits, and it was me.
Yeah.
You know, but she was there. She had those experiences, and so many other of us have had those same experiences. And to hear yourself on television
Yeah.
feels good, and I just know that I'm just lucky, blessed to be able to be a part of that. You know, so
Those are the best moments when my dad came to the live taping and he heard a joke and he was like, "Was that you? That sounded like you." I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
right.
mine." And so yeah, for them to experience that, to hear your voice and recognize it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and also that the show is like 3 generations of a black family, and you know, some of that story, I had to move back home with my daughter and move back into my parents' house.
Yes.
And my parents are very religious, and so to have, you know, 3 generations in one house, that's definitely something that I'm familiar with very relatively recently. And just that my father's voice is such a strong voice in my head, and my grandmother's voices, and all of those
Yeah.
voices are so strong. And yes, half of the stuff that Madeir says is stuff that my father says or my mother says. And so being able to draw from just that rich family life is really valuable in a way that I've never been able to do before.
You know, as a new writer, that was one of the things I was so big on Googling and just reading up on so many great writers. I think about Yvette Lee Bowser. I think about Mara Baraka Keel. I think about Serafini. I think about Shonda Rhimes, who creates everything. I
Right.
think about Nkechi Carroll, all of these women and the work that they created. Meg DeLoach with Eve and Living Single and All American now with Nkechi and Issa Rae. It's just so many. It's amazing. And, you know, if this is, by God, my journey, I want to be as great as them.
Writing has been a really wonderful opportunity to get in rooms, and because that's where it starts, in the room. You can't change it once you're in the audition because they've already decided what the part is and what kind of girl they want to cast. So being in the room and making the change, but it's really, really hard when you're the only one, and when it's a lot of guys who have a frat boy culture who constantly just want to tear you down and tear your ideas down and not believe in and support you. So that's why this show has been great. Meg was my first boss, you know, and coming back to work for her 15 years later, she's been the only boss I've had that has empowered me and encouraged me and allowed me to grow and actually use my voice and value my voice. So I find that having a black female boss has been the most useful thing for me in being able to develop my artistry and my craft. But those other rooms, they're tough and they're no fun to be in and they're stressful.
Well, the frat boy thing,
Yeah.
frat boy mentality, I definitely was a part of that, being the only black writer on a few shows. And they wanted me to be funny, to be the funny guy, or the guy with flavor.
Right.
So what would this black guy say?
Hello.
You know, give me some jive.
Dynamite.
You know,
You
and
suck a fool.
I would challenge him. I would tell him that, well, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I said it so much, it got on their nerves. I was like, well, we wouldn't do that. So there was a story we were doing about these two brothers who were dating the same girl and blah, blah. I said, we don't necessarily do that. That's a homicide. We don't do that. So, but, you know, they couldn't understand that I had story sense, you know, and they don't want to listen to my story sense. They wanted me to just be, and it was frustrating because you have points and you question yourself at some point, well, am I not right? You know, but then I'm seeing this all the time. And just, I mean, I was doing a show about 4 30-year-old black men, and the majority of the room was 50-year-old white men. And they were telling the story of me, who was at that time a 30-year-old black man. And they thought they could tell that story better than me, or more authentic than me. And when I'm in a room with a Jewish writer, and we're talking about a Jewish character, and he said, well, this character will say, blah, 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 I defer. Okay, it's your culture, you will know. Fine. When I would say it, it would always be challenged. Well, no one really knows about that, and so maybe we can change it up and make it what? Because I'm sure no one in a writer's room with Frasier has ever said, you know, maybe you should drink this wine because it's so expensive that the majority of the culture doesn't know anything about it. He would drink what's authentic to his character, and he would roll with it.
Yeah.
We would have to whitewash hours down, this and that, blah blah. And I'm glad to not have to do that because I got in trouble sometimes. So I've been fired a couple of times. I'm saying. But I've been lucky enough to get on shows where they do listen. It's not just the black people listening, it's the whole situation listening. And one of the things that's good about this place is that even when they don't get it, the response is, I don't get it, but okay.
Right.
Which is all you want sometimes.
Right.
Because it's not always for you.
I sometimes wonder if because I am in such a great room and you guys have done such a great job giving us the freedom, you have.
Okay.
And you have,
on purpose.
definitely. No, I didn't mean it like you have, like,
wasn't paying attention.
but you guys have done such
Tried to
a
beat you
great
down.
job allowing us to, you know, like you said the other day, I think it's time for you guys to learn how to run a room and giving time for just to develop us. And it's so, I think what would be frightening, well, no, I shouldn't use that word, but for lack of a better word, the fear now is what happens when you go into another room and this isn't what it's like. I
what
have
you learned.
such high
use it.
expectations of what a room should be like because I'm so comfortable in a
But
room.
that's good, so
Yeah,
that you carry
and
that
they
with
get it
you,
there.
and you have those high expectations,
Yeah.
and don't lower your standards, and insist on having yourself be heard wherever you are.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, when Meg was, when the show came about, and Meg called me up, we were meeting at a coffee shop,
Yep.
meeting writers at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And she was very clear. She wanted an all-black room. You know, I'm like, okay. I was excited about it.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody in the room was handpicked, you know, based on what they were going to bring. And it feels good to sit back and say, you know what, we were right.
I had a friend, I got into an argument with a friend. He had just gotten a job on a network show, and I hit him up like, yo, congrats, man. It's like his first job. I'm like, this is huge. He was like, no, man. I told him he was perfect for that show. That's the words I used. I was like, yo, you're perfect for that show, because I had a character that had to rap a little bit, and he had a rapping background. And I remember his reaction. He was like, no, I take offense to that. I'm like, why? He's like, well, because it's like I'm only here because I have this rapping background. I'm a person of color. He's like, I mean, why can't I go be on this show with predominantly white people? And I heard him at the same time I didn't. I was like, bro, like the main focus is kind of having whatever niche you can to get into a room, especially just starting out. Use that, and then get in there and flex and show them you can
Get
do
in
X,
first.
Y, and Z. And the benchmark isn't the white show. I mean, to me, and I don't know if that's how he meant it, but to me, like I took it as like, oh, you're aspiring to this because you view this as better because it's
Right.
predominantly white. So you
Without
got to
even knowing it.
Yeah, like you have to step back and look. Like, what is your idea of like the best show? Is it an all-white show? Is that credibility to you? Like, I mean, and I think we have to kind of step back and look like what our values are, because getting on a predominantly black show, I don't care where it is, that's a hard thing to do. It's hard to get these jobs. So whichever way you can get in, and then make noise. If you want to go on this show eventually, then flex and show your value and then get there. But I don't think people should be turning their nose up because they have a specific voice they can offer.
What do you think? This says fun and friendly Jade. But then this says sophisticated and approachable Jade.
Which says dressed and in the car, Jade?
You know, Jade, you will look great in anything. I remember when I was tiny like you, only I was known as Big Booty Judy.
Why Judy?
Because Big Booty Amelia doesn't rhyme.
And that was the problem for me, is that the idea of a black show meant hood, drugs. Like there were these
Right.
three little things: hood, drugs, hoes, rapping, like that, gangs. You know what I mean? And then obviously
Monday.
there's obviously there's so much more to our experience as black people. But I feel like at least there's the possibility now for the kinds of black stories that I want to tell
Right.
to be told. Whereas before it was very limited field. So I think that's great about this moment. And so I'm hopeful that regardless of what has happened in the past, there are more opportunities for us to create full worlds of people that reflect our sensibility and our taste,
Right.
regardless of what race they are. Obviously, it's going to have black characters in it, but obviously I can tell more than just black stories. So I think that's, rather than focusing on, the problems of the past, I feel like this is a really rich moment, and I really think Netflix is at the lead of that with the Strong
Yeah.
Black Lead campaign,
Oh, absolutely.
that they're making a commitment to tell different kinds of black stories, not just the hood story, which is valid as well. But I'm not the person to tell the hood story.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I know it's cliche to say that it takes a village, but in our industry, it does. And it's important for our village to continuously bringing and reaching back and pulling others up. And I was told that, you know what, I gave you this job by you.
Yeah.
You told me, you took me to lunch when I first got the job, and you said, you know what, I gave you this job so that you could pull back someone else and allow it to be just a cycle of just us pulling each other up, because our stories are important.
There are very few of us doing this, and especially we know each other, because they hire, when I say they, I mean the non-black people hire their friends. I don't blame them. The problem is they're hiring their friends, but sometimes we're hiring their friends too, which leaves a bunch of us out.
Yeah.
You know, so by creating a strong black network of writers, you know what's happening, and so it's not as hard for the next generation, you know, coming up to get in and tell those stories and to keep those stories going.